Communication is easy, provided that you don't have to involve another person. You are awesome. Why, thanks, Matt. I really dig me too. Thank you. You're awesome. I love all of us. There's nothing better than just talking to oneself. Makes you seem a little crazy, but it's convenient. Today, our mission, should you decide to accept it, is very simple. To see how we might wrestle that rascal that is our tongue. Welcome to our Masterclass on Communication.
Well, howdy. How's everybody doing this morning so far on that beautiful, wet fall day? So, man, it is wet, but it is beautiful out there. Now, I want to welcome all of you to our series on Masterclass. And as I shared last week, this goal here, this whole quest is not trying to find a person that's mastered a subject and they teach you how to master it, because I guarantee you the topic of the day I have not mastered, right? At all. What we're trying to do is take our cues from Jesus. Because Jesus, he has a master vision for life. And his Bible, his book, it has a master guidance in our lives so that we can navigate the challenges of life, and from that, be more refined and more completed in him in these areas. Now, I can tell you right now, the topic of the day, communication, the Bible says a lot about that. In fact, just this week as I was prepping and putting everything together, this is not an exaggeration. I read well over 100 passages in the Bible about the use of our words, our language, our tongue, our communication. And when you're reading through the Bible and it brings up a subject well over 100 times, that's like a mandate, you know? It's like trying to tell us, you really want to pay attention to this topic. You want to be very aware of this because this subject matter is potent in our lives, both for good and for bad. Like, that's all in there. And so we're going to try to tackle this giant topic in a bite-sized way today. Now, before I get started, I want to say that if you are a guest with us this morning, super glad that you are here. Thank you for taking your Sunday out of your busy lives to come and see what's happening in this place and why we like to make a big deal about Jesus and his book. And so we're just glad that you are here. Also want to remind you that we have an app and there are notes in the app, and so you can follow along today. And you're going to want to do that because there are some tools that we're going to glean out of this today that's going to give us some guidance in our communication. So, that is all said. I want to go ahead and pray, and then that will get us ready for the day. Let's go ahead and pray together. Jesus, I thank you so much, again, for the fact that there are hard subjects in the Bible sometimes, but this subject today is not among them, not as far as what it tells us to do, but it is tremendously difficult to do what it says. And so I'm asking for your Spirit to guide us, to convict us, to correct us, and to hone us so that we might be more of what it is you seek for us to be in this area of our lives. And so we look to you for guidance and for conviction and for help and hope that we might become more refined in our words. So Jesus, we love you and we thank you in your good and perfect name. Amen. So in the bumper video, there was a definition for communication. I want to revisit this, right? Because I think it's really good. When I read it, I'm like, oh, that is perfect, all right? So communication is two-way process of reaching mutual understanding in which participants not only exchange, which is encode and decode, which is very technical, right? Not only exchange information, news and ideas, feelings, but they also create and share meaning. In general, communication is a means of connecting people or places. Now, I think that's a pretty robust definition. I appreciate it, but I also read it and go, wow, it's also challenging. In fact, I want to just highlight a couple of things in this definition that we can take note of as we start this morning. First of all, it says it's a two-way process of reaching mutual understanding. It is to create and share meaning. It is a means of connecting people or places. If only it were so easy, right? I mean, if it was that easy, we would be awesome at this. Because I look at the definition and I go, man, that definition, that is fantastic. I love what I am reading there. But I look at that definition and I go, but the application of the definition, that is something that happens a little bit more sporadic in our lives. And I think it's sort of weird because more than ever before, we have the power to communicate, right? I mean, just think about it. Like if you have the app out right now, whatever else on your phone, that device is the most powerful form of communication the world has ever seen. In the palm of your hand, you can text, you can email, you can read information on the internet, you can actually listen to podcasts and other data, you can FaceTime a person, and if you're really in a pinch, you can use it as a phone. It's the weirdest thing, right? Like there's all this capacity for communication. And then on top of that, probably more than any other time in human history, we have the margin for real communication, right? So it used to be back in the day, like people had to just get up early in the morning, labor hard all day, and then they were exhausted at the end of the day. There wasn't coffee shops everywhere and pubs where you can meet up with your friends and chat and talk and everything like that. It was just, life was hard, right? And the tools that were given to people before relatively recent, they weren't great tools for communication. But now we live in a world where we can go and hang out in places and we can learn even how to communicate better with a TED Talk. There's books, there's articles, 5 love languages. I know your language now. I can speak your language. Like that's there. You've got HR departments teaching us, no, don't say it this way. You want to say it that way. We have a very politically correct climate that tells us all the more, just speak kind, don't be mean. All these tools, all this stuff, and you would think with all of that information, all that data, all that opportunity, we would be masters. Masters at communication with clarity and compassion and thoughtfulness. But we know that we are not good at this. This is just our battle, right? And there's a lot of different layers to it. In fact, just reading some stuff this week, I was looking at how just between the United States and the UK, $37 billion is lost every year because of poor communication in the workplace, right? People just don't communicate well, and from that, it costs revenue. But it's not just the workplace, right? You think about just in our marriage contexts, how much we struggle with communication. You look at the information and the data, and you will see that the number one cause of grief or strife, separation, and divorce, it's always poor communication. Which is strange because, again, as somebody that is counseling, I'll meet this person, I'm like, they seem really cool. And I'll meet this person, they seem really cool. But they're married and they are not cool with one another. And they just say hostile, harsh things. Right? And this is part of the brokenness of communication. And when that happens often in the marriage, where does it spill out? Into the home at large. And you think about all the stuff that kids have to deal with today. Anxiety, depression, insecurity. A lot of the research shows us that that gets developed because they see a mom and a dad. They see parents that are frustrated. There's friction in the home, and the friction spills out onto the kids, and the parents are frustrated at the kids, and then the kids can say really awful and terrible things to the parents, and there's all kinds of craziness that happens in that context. In fact, I have no doubt that for many of us in this room, some of the deepest wounds, some of the deepest frustrations, some of the deepest insecurities that we have, they flow out of a relationship where dad just said enough of the wrong thing enough times. Or mom said things just in a certain way with a certain tone, and it just kind of anchored itself in your soul. And from that, you've got baggage. And you've got wounds. Or maybe for some of you, just growing up among friends, there was bullying. Even among your closest friends, there was always that kind of pecking order. And from the bullying, you've got some issues. Or maybe you had friends or family members that bullied you. Or maybe you had friends that simply gossiped about you and said terrible things or misread you or didn't take you at your word. And from that, there is just a sense of dealing with stuff in your lives. I mean, I could go on and on. We all could go on and on about the reality that this is just problematic for us. That when it comes to our words, when it comes to our communication, we would probably prefer a stick or a stone. Right? I would rather have some broken bones Because there have been things that have been said that run far deeper in the wound department, right, than a stick or a stone breaking a bone. And if we're really honest with ourselves, not only have we been the recipient of that, but frankly, we've also probably dealt out a few words, right? Oftentimes to the people we're closest to, right? That spouse, that child, that parent. We've said some things that forced a person to carry baggage they didn't ask for. So this is why we want to really slow down this morning and take ownership of the fact that words are the most powerful force in the universe. I'm not trying to just speak like in hyperbole. I really believe words are the most powerful instrument, tool, and force in the universe. Now, it's interesting. If you look at evolutionary theory, language is very problematic. Because the neurological components that are necessary for us to listen and to process and to speak, they're so complicated, the layout for that is so complicated, that in evolutionary theory they go, man, it's really hard to see how those things could have all come together just through natural selection. They're like, we're not sure. In fact, there's been some really fascinating and funny books on that topic, right? Because they're not sure. But if you're a Bible reader and a Bible believer, you look at this and you go, well, I know where we got language, right? We got it from God. And we got it from God because God is a God of words and speaking. We're made in His image. Therefore, we have words and we so speak. In fact, the way the Bible opens up, it's real simple. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And it's this, the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light. The whole opening of the Bible is to tell us that God is a God who speaks. That is a part of His authority and His power and His creativity. This is why when we fast forward to the New Testament, we see in the Gospel of John, it says, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And that's referring to Jesus. And so what you see, just kind of like, I'm going to call it theologically for a minute here, what you see is that there is a relationship, a community of oneness between the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, and that community plays out in communication. And so when we're made in God's image, God is like, okay, we communicate within ourselves. We speak power and authority. We're going to give that same capacity to people. And so you have Adam and you have Eve, and they can commune with one another, and then they can commune with God. And so there's conversation and community, and they engage in this shared experience, right? Because words are meant to be shared, and words have power. And even though our words don't have the same kind of divine power as God, we can't just see like, I want a Winnebago, and it just appears. We can't do that. But our words are still powerful in a different way. In fact, in Proverbs, it says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. In the same way that God speaks and creation appears, flourishing can appear, or destruction. God can speak and destruction occurs. In the same way, you and I have that same type of capacity. We can speak into the lives of people around us, and we can speak flourishing, or we can speak decay. This is why we must take our words seriously, because they can strengthen or destroy people's lives. I'll give you an example of this, right? The current cancel culture that exists online, right? If you're a person that says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing, the mob will simply go online and with just mere words destroy your life. They'll go online and you will lose your job. You will lose your reputation. You will lose your credibility. Whether they've ever vetted the problem or not, whether they've looked at all the evidence or not, all they have to do is with just a few strokes of their fingers destroy a person's life. Words can destroy people. They are powerful for good or for bad. And part of the reason I say we need to take our words seriously is because I don't think we see our words as being as destructive or life-giving as we might think. Like, for example, we would never wave around a loaded pistol, right? We'd be like, it's foolish to just wave around a loaded gun. But we run around sometimes and we wave around our loaded mouths, right? We just say things just out of nowhere. It just pops out. In fact, there's this great little bit in Proverbs chapter 12. It says, there are those whose rash words are like sword thrusts. They're like sword thrusts. Again, I don't know your story, but I know my story. See, I know in my story, I had a father who would use words. He wasn't a shouter or a ranter. They were very calculated, very slow, very precise. And I am almost 49 years old, and I still sort of walk with an internal limp because of words, right? Just right thing, right point, right way, in such a way that I was going to be insecure. I mean, if you were to ask my wife, like, what's the biggest challenge you face with Matt? She'll say he still struggles with issues from his father from when he was a kid. It's just there. I try to get over those. I try to deal with those. I try not to be hurt by those, but they're just sort of embedded, right? Because there are some words that are like sword thrusts. I'd like to tell you another part of my story, too. I have, in my fear or frustration or fatigue, I have said things to people that put, again, baggage in their life that they were never asking for. Maybe I was trying to be funny. Maybe I was trying to get a rise out of my friends and be seen as the guy that was cutting it up. And I said something to somebody that then really anchored them in life with an insecurity, with a wound, with a harm. I mean, again, I am culpable in many occasions where I've done this very thing, where I have not realized my words can be destructive. And so again, I can't control what other people do, but I can have jurisdiction over my own words. And so what I don't want to do in that is minimize my use of words, right? I don't want to be like, well, that's just me, right? That's just what I do. I just say stupid stuff sometimes. Oops. I mean, it's easy to say that, but again, that's a terrible attitude to have. Or, I didn't really mean it. They know I didn't mean it. I just kind of pop off, and they get it. Here's a good one. Oh, I was only kidding. I was only joking. Or my favorite, I'm just frank. They're going to have to get over it. Just excuse my curtness. See, what we want to do, and all the ways we kind of just invalidate how serious this is to go back and see how serious God takes it. In Proverbs, it says there are 6 things that the Lord hates. No, 7 things he detests. In fact, some versions say these 7 things are an abomination to God. Of the 7, 3 have to do with our words. Right? If God's like, I'm going to tell you my top 7 most frustrating things you people do. He's like, 3 of them are how you use your tongue. That should cause us to go, whoa, okay, that's a big deal. See, I think God puts a passage like this here for us, first of all, to grind our gears a little bit. Because again, I think we'll think, oh, I know what abominations are in the Bible, and then we'll go, and that's not me, right? Those people are abominations. Those people are abominations. Those activities, those actions, those are abominations. But what I do, I don't engage in abominations. And God's like, whoa, wait. If you use your words and you use them in the wrong way, that really, really sits wrong. Right? And so this causes us to go, whoa. Grinds our gears, and then it demands our attention. In fact, in James, it says, if you claim to be religious, but you don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself, and your religion is worthless. See, I appreciate this one because after being a pastor for so long, I have found oftentimes in my own world, and at times I do this thing, but the people that are the most theologically minded, who would see themselves as most protecting Scripture, are also oftentimes the ones that have the most barbed words, the most critical spirits. And it's like, why is that, right? Because again, we should be oozing with grace if we're close to God and His Word, but sometimes we struggle with this. And again, I think it's because we don't take seriously that our words are powerful, that our words can be destructive, or they can be life-giving. And so we need to then say, all right, I got to be more thoughtful about this. I need to maybe probe a little deeper into my life so as to really work on my words. And I think to understand this, to really temper our words, starts with asking God really to tame our hearts. We need God to work on the internals so that he can shape what we say. Now, I say temper our words because we're never going to tame them. We're just not. Again, James says this, "Indeed, we all make many mistakes. For if we can control our tongues, we would be perfect, and we could control ourselves in every other way." Even that weird little nervous eye twitch you get, right? Like, we could control everything if we could control our words. I mean, this is how hard it is to do. And again, what we have to understand about our words is they are not this reaction where the lungs press air through the larynx over the tongue and words appear out of thin air. That is not the process of words. When we read the Bible, the process of words is really simple. It starts with your heart and then comes out. It's a heart thing. It's not a larynx thing. It's not a lungs thing. It's a heart thing. And so whatever we've stored up in our heart, whatever we feed our mind will fuel what we say. This is why Solomon, in all of his wisdom, said, "Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flows the springs of life." And then he immediately says what? "Put away all crooked speech and all devious talk from you." Like, he knows, like, the heart is where it starts. And I love the fact that he says guard or keep the heart. In the Hebrew language, what it's really getting at is this is your most precious possession, more than your retirement, more than your home, more than your stuff. The most precious thing you have in life is a healthy heart. So he's like, man, you got to protect that so it doesn't become callous or cold or condescending or cruel. Make sure you guard the heart, because it will then define the quality of life that you live and the quality of life that people live around you, right? Your heart will gush out in some fashion or form. And then from that, what's he say, right? It's reflected in what you say, right? Your words are going to show what you really think and what you really believe. So he says, put it all away. Put anything away that is destructive. I can't help but look at this and go, man, if I have attitudes about people in here, it will be revealed through here somehow. Like, for example, if I say, man, I really don't like people that much, it eventually will be reflected in my words. Maybe to my spouse or to my kids or whatever, but it's going to be reflected. If I say, I just don't care for people very much. Or there are some types of people, oh man, they bug me. And I have that in my heart. When I'm around those types of people that bug me, they will know it. It's going to come out somehow in my disposition or demeanor, right? If I think the worst in people, if I'm critical of people, if I'm distrusting, it'll come out. If I have an angry heart, it'll come out. If I have a proud heart, it'll come out. Everybody will know I'm proud except for me. I'm just smart, right? I mean, all that stuff is going to leak out because our words are simply the symptoms of whatever our heart condition is, right? And so if I have things in here that are unhealthy, then I have to address what's in here so that what comes out of here is healthy. In fact, Jesus, our master guide, he said it this way: a tree is defined by its fruit. If a tree is good, its fruit will be good. And if a tree is bad, its fruit will be bad. You brood of snakes. I mean, he had a way with words too. How could evil men like you speak what is good and right? For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. Whatever is in your heart determines what you say. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. And then this is where it gets sobering. He says, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you or they will condemn you. Boom, dude. I almost wanted to shut up at this point, right? Because, I mean, like I said, that's sobering. And there's a number of things that my mind reels to when I read this. I mean, when I see the heart thing, part of me, in maybe a positive way, I look at this and say, man, here's what some of us need to do. I know what I need to do sometimes is I need to reject the lies that have been sown into my heart. Right? I need to reject those things that say, Matt, you're not worthy enough, you're dumb, you never measure up, you're not going to accomplish, whatever. There's all kinds of things that create insecurities in me, that create fractures in me, that will contaminate my words in some weird way. So part of this is just, man, I got to flush out those things that are just the enemy lying into my soul, and he's used others to spread those lies into my heart so that my heart is then fearful and protective, and then I say foolish things because of fear and protection. Like, I got to flush that stuff out. The other thing I need to do, according to this, is I need to reject the unhealthy inputs that come into my mind and into my heart, right? And there can be unhealthy inputs, like you might have a friend or you might have somebody you see as your counselor in life, but they don't give you good advice. They fuel your bitterness, or they fuel your anger, or they fuel your hurt, or your sense of self-entitlement, or whatever it is. And you go like, man, that's not going to be helpful to me. I got to cut that out of my life. But then on top of it, I need to realize that my words are on the final exam, right? If I'm flippant or cutting or disregarding, manipulating, I'm harsh, I'm thoughtless, man, I need to look and say, then I need to reorient my words by rewiring my heart and rewiring my practices. In other words, if I'm going to have Jesus help me master communication, then I need to go to the master and say, Jesus, you got to work on me in here. More than anything else, the first target is the heart, right? It's what's going on in my life. I need God to work on with me. And as he's working on it with me, then I can begin to implement some tools that will help me in the process, right? Now, like I said earlier, the tongue is impossible to tame, but I do think that there are some tools that we can use to temper the tongue, right? And here's the thing about a tool. You have to use it over and over to get better at it. Like just recently in the last couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of sheetrocking and taping and mudding and sanding and all of that. I don't do this very often in life. So I look at my process, it isn't pretty, right? Because I just don't use these tools often. But from the beginning to the end, I started rough, and by the end, man, this was getting pretty easy. I was getting more fluid because I was using the tools all the time. In the same way, the tools that I'm going to just kind of recommend today, you have to actually implement on a regular basis to get better at using them. And when I talk about these tools, I want to make sure we understand when we're talking about communication and the tools of communication, you want to use this in all your communicating contexts, all right? So email, texting, FaceTiming, face-to-face, written letters, online social media. It doesn't matter what it is. Those are all ways that we communicate. And so these are all tools that we want to use in this communication process. So here's the first tool, one that I'm trying to do and I struggle to do. The first tool is listen better than you lecture. Listen better than you lecture. Proverbs 18:13, spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. Absolutely, right? Because again, go back to our definition on communication. A two-way process of reaching mutual understanding. My goal is not to be right. My goal is not to win the argument. My goal is for whomever I'm with to understand me and I understand them, and there's clarity between us and where we are at. So what this means is sometimes I should just ask clarifying questions, right? So I'll just use my relationship to my wife, where if there's some kind of thing and she's saying something to me, it's very easy to take it personal instantly because I'm like, it's at me, it's personal, right? But I need to kind of get out of my skin a little bit because oftentimes it's really not me. I'm not the problem. There's another problem, but she's trying to voice it to me, but she may have some frustration or hurt or whatever, and I need to ask clarifying questions. Clarifying questions are like, so when you're saying this, do you mean this or do you mean this? Just so I can understand, as opposed to I just react and start mounting my offensive, you know what I mean? It's like, no, I want to ask clarifying questions. Because what our goal is in communication is at times even trying to help the other person to better formulate what it is they're trying to say, because we're all clumsy at this, right? We're all clumsy, and we need to give each other a little bit of grace on that to be like, hey, man, none of us have figured this out, so how can I be helpful to the other person as they're trying to share with me? Maybe in this we even say, you know what? As things are happening, as maybe a tense conversation is unfolding, I'm going to try to think the best as opposed to assume the worst. I'm going to make sure that I'm not holding against them my expectations, because that's what happens too. Well, I had an expectation you would have responded differently. And my expectations make the mess even bigger. So instead, I want to really make sure that I slow down and I'm listening, not just to their words, but to their heart. And I'm trying to get to the real root of the thing. instead of just lecturing and saying, but you said this and you said that, and then we get into a big mess, right? No, I want to really learn and listen, not simply lecture. Proverbs 17 says this, whoever restrains his words has knowledge. He who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. That should be my prayer every day. Jesus, make me cool. Just make me cool of spirit, because it's easy to get worked up instead of want to work out. But we need to work out, not simply get worked up. That leads to maybe the second thing that I find helpful is a tool. Chew before you spew. My wife would say this to me from the very inception of our marriage. She'd say, Matt, you need to chew your words up before you spit them out. Chew before you spew. In fact, my family, and I've shared this before, but they gave me this sign for Christmas a couple of years ago because they're like, this is dad. This is so dad, right? And so it's in my office. And it was funny, the other day, Dana Jones, who runs our children's ministry, she came into my office, she saw the sign again, and she goes, that's right, I forgot that sign. That's so you. And then I'm like, but I'm getting better. And then she goes, oh my goodness, you're right, you really are. And then I'm like, wow, then I must have been really bad. And so I was just like, I don't know what to do with that. And I'll tell you the thing, this is the honest truth. Again, I just want to be frank with you. This sign for the longest time was my badge of honor. That's right, I'm the guy that will say it when no one else will, because I'm not even thinking when it spews out of my face, right? Like, I thought it was cool. And then I realized somewhat recently, I don't want to be that guy. In fact, I took a leadership class. It might have been about 6 months ago or something like that. And in the class, you have to do this kind of, it's like a personality profile, right? And so you do all these questions, and it spits out, this is kind of who you are. These are the things you're strong in. These are the things you'll struggle with. And I'm reading through it, and one of them had to do with the use of my words, and that I use my words as a weapon. And I'm like, that's dumb, right? It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I'm reading this to my wife. I'm like, can you believe this said this? And she's like, you want to read that again? I'm like, no, I don't. That's dumb. She goes, no, that's you. I'm like, no, it's not. So then I give it to Pastor Scott, because he's going to be like sort of my field advisor on this. I go, hey, I got some questions about this, but I think this is dumb. And he's like, why do you think that's dumb? That's totally you. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, man, you use your sarcasm as a tool to shame people when they disagree with you. You don't realize it. I'm like, no, I'm just being funny, bro. That's what I'm just being comical in a tense moment. He goes, no, but it makes the other person feel dumb. And I'm like, geez, that's really true. How terrible of me, right? This is where I want to own a passage like Proverbs 15:28. The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking, right? The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. The mouth of the wicked overflows with evil words. Like, man, my words may have not been evil, but Jesus said, I'm watching the idle words too. Or maybe I didn't think my motives were evil, but if it hurt another person, that's an evil thing. And so what I want to do with this is say, maybe just like a checklist, is I'm getting ready to say something. Do I really mean what I'm about to say? Do I really mean it? Because even that little thing, as I said earlier, it is so strange how it is the people we're closest to that receive the most battle damage from our words. So if I'm in some difference of agreement with my wife, whatever I say next, do I really mean that thing I'm about to say? Or if I'm having a tense moment with my kids, do I really mean this thing I'm about to say? Because I might just let it fly and I go 5 minutes later, I didn't really mean that. But it sticks for a lifetime in there, depending on what's said and how it's said, and even the psychological makeup of the person at the time when they hear that. We want to ask ourselves questions like, what I'm about to say, is it going to help this person or is it going to hurt this person? Maybe we want to ask ourselves, if somebody said this to me and the way I'm about to say it, would I receive that well? Right? If they had that kind of tone and that kind of disposition where they're kind of cocked back like this and would I take that well? Probably wouldn't take that well, right? Or this is one I always think about. If especially in maybe a disagreement with my wife, if she was recording this right now and played it back, would I be embarrassed? Be like, yeah, that was terrible. That wasn't me. Now, I know some people say, but Matt, I can't help it. I just get worked up in the moment. I get all frustrated. And I just say stuff. I can't control it. I'm like, yes, you can. Outside of having a true mental illness or something like Tourette's syndrome, something that's legitimately medically true, we all have enough self-discipline to not say dumb, mean, hurtful things. And here's my proof. Right? You're in the car, kids are nuts, everything's crazy, they're screaming, so you're screaming at them. I said, sit down, shut up, stop it, everything else, we're at Starbucks now. Hello. Yes, I would like a mocha. Yeah, like we literally stop, shut. All right, I need coffee. Right? We do this, right? Or you'll be in a fight at home with your spouse and you're just going all at it and everything else and the phone is ringing, just shut up for a minute. Hello. Right? We turn it on and off for circumstances all the time, right? When we let it fly, the simple reality is because we want to let it fly. But we have self-control. We can stop before we start. We just have to start to think in terms of, man, is it important enough? Is it critical enough? Is it serious enough? Maybe a good rule of thumb is another tool. Be clear. Be kind. It's pretty simple. When you talk, be clear and be kind. And I think this is kind of funny. This is one I did a podcast on a few months ago, I think. And I thought it was funny to me because I'm like, oftentimes the people who are clear aren't always kind. And the people that are kind aren't not always clear, right? And so again, you want to be clear, which means don't expect them to read your mind. Don't hope they read between the lines. Don't be like, I was giving you body language. Why didn't you figure it out? That's not clear. Clear is this is what I'm working through. This is what I'm thinking about. Just be clear. But in that context, you still have to be kind. You can't be cutting or biting or harsh or blunt or straightforward, straight shooting. People say that. I just want somebody to shoot straight with me. I'm like, right, until somebody does it. You ever had somebody to shoot straight with you and you'd be like, that was refreshing? It doesn't work that way. We all like to talk tough on straight shooters, but we don't love straight shooters. Not really. Not unless we know that they really, genuinely care. And so we want to be clear. We want to be kind. Ephesians 4, don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, that you will be an encouragement to those who hear your words. That's just the grid. That means be clear. Be kind. Maybe that leads into another piece, especially in sensitive conversations, which is seek to make a difference more than you try to make a point. Try to make a difference more than you seek to make a point. Our goal in especially hard or challenging, friction-laden conversations is not to just get stuff off our chest. Because you know what happens a lot of times when we get something off our chest? We just place it on the chest of the other person. That's all that really kind of happens. But our goal is not to get things off our chest. They're really to get the relationship back on the rails, right? And see there be flourishing and health and wholeness. Again, Solomon's a wise person. And he said, the wise are known for their understanding, and pleasant words are persuasive. Pleasant words are persuasive. From a wise mind comes wise speech. The words of the wise are persuasive. That should be our objective, right? I'm not trying to best you or beat you or shame you or silence you. I'm trying to persuade you. And that leans in with care and investment and wholeness. And I'll just give you a bonus on this one because you showed up, all right? Here's the bonus. Anything that's truly important, honestly important, deeply important, you take it serious. Anything that's truly important, you want to know what? Those words should never be written down. Those words should be shared person to person in a persuasive way. What I'm trying to say here is if you go, man, this is really serious, I'm really hurt, this is really broken, and I'm going to send an email. I'm going to send a letter. I'm going to send a text. That is the worst method of communication in the universe for a broken situation. Worst medium. Because when you send that, you may feel better. Again, you got it off your chest. But the recipient, they don't know tone. They don't know inflection. And trust me, all those little happy faces don't make it go down easier, all right? right? They can't hear whether you're aching or you're condescending. And oftentimes we read it in the negative, right? If this comes our way, we just go, wow, that was harsh. And sometimes because we have this proxy between us, this barrier, I don't have to look you in the eye and see your broken heart when I say something mean. I'll say some of the meanest things sometimes because, again, I don't have to stare you in the face. The same thing with online bullying. Online bullying is so nasty because, again, you don't have to see the dread of the other person. You can just come up with the best zinger in the universe and destroy their psyche in 5 seconds. So this is why all the more, if it's so deeply important, it requires the person can hear your tone and your heart, that they can see maybe you're brokenhearted over it. Like, that's the key. So anything worth truly saying needs to be said. In fact, Jesus says if you have a problem with your brother, he said go to them. He didn't say hit send, like go. Is it hard? Yeah, but is it good? Yeah. This leads to the 5th thing. Say what you're supposed to say, not what you want to say, and then pray about your crappy attitude afterward. Right? I have to do this sometimes. Paul said, bless those who persecute you, bless, and do not curse them. Right? Now you go, maybe it's not people in my life that persecute me, but it's just people in my life that bug me, are difficult, don't like me, we disagree, whatever it is. No matter what it is, Paul's still really clear. Jesus said the same thing. Bless them. That's a word spoken. I want your best. I want your good. I want to sow hope into your life. I want to bless you in some way. I'm not going to curse you. Right? And so sometimes it just means I know what God wants me to say. I'm going to say that thing, even though inside I don't want to say that thing. So I'm going to say the right thing, and then I'm going to pray about my crappy attitude. God, help me to have a better attitude on this. Help my heart to come behind the right words with the right emphasis, right? That's what we want to do. In fact, for me, there's this simple tool. I've used this before, and I know a lot of other groups use it and things like that, but it's this tool of think, right? I've referred to this a couple of different times over the course of history here at Redemption Church, and I love it because there are people that will take this, people I know of in my life that have written this on the inside of their arm, on their wrist, or put it on a rubber band, or put a Post-it note on their mirror in the morning, and they're like, I just want to make sure I think in life. This is a very simple tool. What does it mean to think? First of all, if I'm interacting with somebody, I want to ask myself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it true? Am I positive this is the thing, or am I just assuming this is the thing? Because we want to make sure, man, what I'm about to say is true, and I know the true facts, and I've tried to work it out, so I'm going to say something that is true. The next thing, is it helpful? And it's not, is it helpful for me, but is it helpful for them? Is it helpful to them, what I'm about to say? And then is it inspiring? Does it help them to be better? Or is it just helping me feel better? Because I want them to really be better, and therefore, is it inspiring? Next, is it necessary? Do we even need to say this next thing? Matter of fact, this is one of the things I love about my wife. We were meeting with a couple this week, and we were talking about some things, and Ellen goes, there's things that Matt does that sometimes kind of bugs me. I'm like, really? Shocks me. I thought it was perfect. So I do things that kind of bug her, and she goes, but I have learned to wait a day. So she waits a day, and she goes, usually by the next day, I realize it's no big deal, and it's not even necessary to talk about it because it wasn't a thing. In the moment, I was a little agitated, but really, in the big scope of things, it doesn't even matter. It wasn't even necessary. Some things aren't necessary. I don't always have to share my opinion on everything. It's not necessary. So we ask, is it necessary to say this thing? And then last, is it kind? Is what I'm about to say kind? Right? So is it going to be empathetic? Is it going to be soul refreshing? Because here's a really painful truth. We are all imperfect people. And we're just coming alongside other imperfect people. Right? Trying to commune, trying to interact, trying to create relationship, right? So from all of this, I just want to give you a homework assignment, right? And maybe it's a little customized. You're going to have to kind of figure out yours for you. But the homework assignment goes 2 directions. One is this. We all have words that we regret we've said to somebody that matters in our lives in some way. And in light of that, if there's something where you go, I know I've done this, this first move is a move that I think is really, really helpful. And it's this word repent. right? Repent means to change one's mind and course of action and to make things right in that sense. And I think if we know we have used words in ways that are destructive, we should repent before God, like, God, forgive me. You've given me the power of words and I've abused that. But then also for the person that maybe we have dumped that on. Maybe you're like, man, I do not say nice things to my spouse. I don't say nice things to my parents, my kids, my coworkers, whatever. And I need to make that right. I need to go to that person and own what I've done, right? Maybe that's something that needs to occur. That's a homework assignment, right? The other homework assignment is maybe there's things where that's an area I just don't do well with my words. And so I'm going to make a concerted effort, a focus of everyday praying, God, help me when it comes to this thing to use better words, to be more thoughtful, to slow down, to not run to my relational death by just spouting off, but to have a wise mind and think in terms of persuasive words, right? Because I want to honor you, God, and I want to honor the people around me. And so you just pick that thing, that area where you go, yep, I know I need to do that. Because I know I've not been as thoughtful as I could. Because at the core of all of it, we want our words to be thoughtful and kind and filled with grace. Because at least for the Christian, man, grace, that's our brand. Let's go ahead and pray together. Jesus, I thank you for painful reminders of what it means to use our words well. And I pray that we will do that. I pray that we will do that because it is an extension of love. It's an extension of grace. And all the qualities that we admire, kindness and mercy and compassion, those are all housed inside words. And so I pray that if we have hurt others, that we will take ownership. I pray that if we have been hurt, we will unlock from the lies that have been sown into our lives, and we will look at our sufficiency in you. And so, Jesus, we thank you for your wisdom and for your grace. In your good name, amen.